Hi guys, it's Kelly. I got page 14 done in my mini art journal series, my 28-page mixed media series that I'm doing, and it's so bright. I had so much fun doing this. Hope you guys like it. I used lots of Rin stamps from Designs by Rin, and I started off just cutting a piece of 90-pound watercolor paper, and I knew I was going to put it in my book, so I cut it to the right size with a little bit of border. And I saturated it with a big brush with some clean water. And I'm using my watercolor set. And that is a new brush that I thought I'd give a try. I wasn't too crazy about it. It kind of got stuck. I don't know, I wasn't real crazy about it. But for this page, I wasn't sure the direction I was going to use, the direction that I was going to go. But I knew that I was going to use the koi set. And those are koi fish. They're kind of like decorative carp type fish. I love it. They look so friendly and cute. And I love those two stamps, using those together. So I thought maybe I'll do some kind of really colorful underwater type of scene. Because I've got some gorgeous stamps from Rin to create that. So I just was laying down some color. I laid down that yellow ochre and it was just a little bit too brown, so I was brightening it up with the cadmium yellow hue paint that I have for my watercolor paint set. Doesn't all fit in the screen, but it's just playing with colors and figuring out what you like. So, and I love to use orange and blue together. I don't know why I love all these color combinations. I kind of go to them often. So I was playing with the blues. They weren't quite as vibrant as I wanted. And then thought maybe I'll add some green in there. So I'm just laying down color where I think it would look nice. And I know it's going to dry a little bit lighter. So I wound up doing it twice. So what I was doing there is just blotting up some of that pigment, some of the water, because it kind of pools at the edge of the paint. So you can just kind of dry off your brush and pick it up that way. Or use a paper towel. So I'm just kind of making a little random rainbowish type pattern. And there I'm using paper towel to kind of blot up some of the stuff that's pooling on the edges. Because the paper is 90-pound paper, so it buckled a little bit on me. But it still worked out fine. So that was the first round of color. And although I really liked the combinations, they weren't as vibrant as I wanted. So I didn't add as much water, and I just added more pigment and just followed the same pattern that I had down there and just laid down some more color. I wanted it more vibrant. So I kind of like the lines that you get, the random lines that you get once you dry it and then go over it again. I just think it looks kind of cool. Adds more interest and more texture to the background. So in there I'm adding more yellow because my yellow was not as vibrant as I wanted it to be. So less water, more pigment. And it got me to where I wanted to be. And the camera doesn't really, it kind of dulls it out, but it is really for watercolor, because watercolor is kind of not as bright, but this wound up nice. I really like how it turned out. And this page was easy. It did not take long. It was like maybe about an hour and 45 minutes. I didn't fuss so much. So there it is. It is all dried. I'm taking off my tape and keeping it down on my non-stick craft sheet because I know I'm going to use it again. A little bit of my paper pulled up when I pulled the tape off, but it was no big deal. And even though my edges aren't perfectly centered, I don't care. It's my art journal and I'm having fun. It's my artistic playtime. It still felt a little bit wet on the background, so, and you can see it curling up a little bit. So it did. It was still a little bit wet underneath, so I just wound up drying it really, really well. And then I just straighten it out. There's my background. Super, super easy. I love that about watercolors. You just slap some color down and voila, there it is. So I'm playing with my koi set. Those are the fish. And I know I'm going to put them down, but I'm not real sure where I'm going to put them. So to test where I want to put them, I just grab some tissue paper, stamp them on some tissue paper. and then hold it over my background and see if I like that. And that's a technique I use very, very often. I've talked about it a lot. But if you haven't seen my other videos, if you've created a background that you really, really like, and I really liked how this one turned out, then before you just stamp directly on it, you might want to check it out and do some placement planning on some tissue paper. And what happened after I did some placement planning on the tissue paper, I decided that I wanted these fish to really pop off this page. So to do that, I wound up not stamping them directly onto my background because they kind of get lost. They needed to have their own coloring. And I was really into coloring for this one, so I went a different direction. And you will see that shortly. That is the seaweed set. And I'm just kind of putting it on there, seeing, am I going to like that with it? Where am I going to put it? I'd already decided that I was going to stamp my koi set on watercolor paper and color it separately. So now I'm just trying to see if I'm going to like the seaweed set. I knew I would, but I was like, where am I going to put it? And am I going to use black, or what colors am I going to use? So I'm just feeling it out. That's a great way to help plan your page. So what I did was I used my embossing buddy little thing right there and went all over this extra little piece of watercolor paper that I had. And I pulled out my VersaFine ink. So what I'm going to do, because I want the koi set, the koi fish to be black, but I also wanted them to be raised up because it helps with coloring it. It just makes it easier, so I wanted to emboss it. So VersaFine is a great ink, and it's really wet, so it stays wet for a while, so it works out really well for using your embossing powder. And I have clear embossing powder, and that's what I wanted. I still wanted it to be black, but I wanted it to be raised up so that when I use my watercolors to color my stamped image, the embossed areas help the color stay where you want it. It still moves around, and that's the whole thing with watercolor. You want it to move around. But I liked how it looked, and it kind of raised it up, and you'll see that here in a second. So for those that didn't know, VersaFine ink works out well for using your embossing powders. And then I heat up my heat tool. I let it run for about like 10 seconds before I bring it to my paper. I think it helps your paper not to warp as much. So in there it just kind of brightens it back up, but now it's embossed. So you can't see it on the screen, but it's raised up and embossed like I wanted it. So then I grabbed my watercolors again and started playing with the colors. And after doing some research and looking at some actual pictures of the koi fish, they're like a carp fish, and they're like decorative because they have this really cool, some of them have these really cool, almost like polka dots and different shades of colors on them. And I'm going to try doing that next time I use these, and just maybe use some acrylic paints. I'm not real sure, but they have some unique colorings on them, and this was a little too fluid for the real thing. I still love how this turned out, but still, these fish have very cool, vibrant colors on them, and very contrasting colors. It would be like really bright orange, and then white and red, and just cool. So, but I wasn't sure of my colors I was going to use. I wanted to kind of stay in the same color family that I was using. But I made the mistake again of using my red before I used my yellow on that fish down there. So I figured, well, I'll have one darker one and one lighter one. Because you want to start with your lighter colors first and then work out. And I tried to add some yellow to that red one that I already colored, but it still wound up nice. Now the first one, the red one, I put the water in the area that I was painting and then brought the pigment to it. On this one that I'm doing now, the more yellow one, I did not wet it first. and I brought the paint right to it. So I mixed my color, and then I brought it to the dry paper. And you can see that it winds up being, you can see the pigment a little bit more. It's a little bit more saturated. So, and I guess it depends on what you're looking for. Sometimes you want that nice muted watercolor look, and sometimes you don't. But I want to try them both in different ways, you know, because depending on if you lay your water down first or not, you're going to get a different, it's subtle, but you're going to get a different performance, I guess, from your watercolors. I have learned that. I'm not a watercolor expert. I'm still learning. I do love it. I love the randomness of it. It reminds me of alcohol inks, how you just never know what you're going to get. So there they are. So I decided to use my distress ink. I got peeled paint and mowed lawn for my seaweed set I'm going to put in the background. And I used peeled paint for the seaweed set that was a little bit, that's filled in. That's the one that's filled in and darker. And then I used mowed lawn for the one that is not filled in. And I just added a few of them. I didn't want it too busy in the background there. Just added just a few here and there. That was it. I kept it very, very simple. I was so short on time. That's the story of my life lately. So I just cherish the moment that I get, the moments that I get to create something. So, messing with my placement, and as you can see, I used the tape, my painter's tape, and put it right back on there because I knew I was going to be stamping outside of it, but I wanted my border to stay white. So I just put the tape right back on there and stamped on it so that it was still coming off the page, but didn't go on my white border. So here I am using my technique again. I want to know where I'm going to place my rising bubbles. Love that stamp. I'm just obsessed with anything like water related stamps. I don't know why. I just love them. And that one's called Rising Bubbles. I'll have all the links to all the stamps that I use in the description bar. They're direct links to the actual site. If you're interested in purchasing them from Designs by Ren, you can just click on it and go get them. So just playing with my placement. Forgot that I am on my pink cutting board, so I'll have stamps on there. I don't care. I love the bubbles. They can stay. So, and that was archival ink that I used. I'm just drying it real quick, making sure it doesn't get smudged. Taking the paint off again. I'm really liking it. This was one of those fun pages where everything I tried just worked. It does not always work that way. Try 7 different things. So because I was short on time, I decided to just go over the reflection marks on my stamp with my white Jelly Roll pen. It works just fine. I didn't have a whole... The only time I have a hard time with my white Jelly Roll pen is if I have a whole bunch of bumps and different kind of wet media underneath. It worked really well with just the watercolor in the background, so did not need to bust out my titanium white acrylic paint and use my teeny tiny brush to add those marks. That has such a great effect, but this works out just as well, I think, in this setting. So, and I'm just following what the stamp provides, where those reflection marks go. I'm not making it up. That's, the stamp is telling me exactly what to do. Just about done. And things have not slowed down for me yet, guys, with work. Hopefully soon. It's actually good. It's really good the way things are happening, but there is no such thing as an 8-hour day for me. 7 days a week. It is 12 plus. And today was only 4 hours. So I got to do this and laundry. Okay, so my sentiment. I'm using the Paper Studio clear stamp set. It's just a bunch of words. And these fish are so happy and so cute looking together, and they look like buds. So I immediately went to my sentiment being deepest for the water, because we're underwater. So deepest friend. And that's just an extra piece of the watercolor paper that I used to cut out the koi set fish with. The koi, you know what I mean, the fish. I had that there, so I am just getting my stamps and stamp it on there, and I'll cut it out. Very not technical. And it's not precise. I was just eyeballing it and chopping it off. And the reason why, if you're wondering, why do you only have 2 pieces of tape down there now, is because I already had planned to stamp the fish where they're sitting now. I'm going to stamp them actually right on the card. The watercolor paper, whatever. I'm going to stamp it right on there, because cutting out the whiskers that are what make, I think that's a characteristic of the koi fish that make them the koi fish. Kind of tells you it's a carp, but the whiskers, cutting that out, fussy cutting that out was not an option. So I wind up stamping it and then using the whiskers that are on the stamp in the background. You'll see what I'm talking about if I'm not being clear. So, and I am just putting black soot around the edges of my sentiment cutouts. And be careful, don't do it over your project. Those little foam pieces will ruin your project. So here's this is why I have the tape there, because I still want my white outline, or my border. I'm going to go over it, and I know I'm going to go over it, but I'm okay with that. I just didn't want the stamped image to show on the white border. So that's why I taped it in just those specific spots. And I need the whiskers, so I might as well stamp the whole thing on there. There it goes. It's subtle, but it is a characteristic of the fish that makes it what it is, so I think it was important to leave it in there. I could have drawn it in there too, but why draw when you can stamp? So now I wanted to raise them up a little bit, so I'm just using my foam tape and I'm cutting it to the sizes that I need. I love using that foam tape. I've seen some people with massive rolls of it. I wish I had more time so I could use up my massive rolls of it, but I don't. So I'm not going to put it on every single part of the fish, just on the tail and then the one fin and the back side of it. The largest part of the body of it. And then I save all those extra little pieces and I wind up using them for something. Leftover pieces from another project was what started this, so I used that. So there it is. I like how my fish comes right off the page. I know that there will be a border on my page in my art journal, so it's going to protect it. the foam came a little bit out of the tail, so I had to kind of trim that down. So there it is. And then I fussed where to put my sentiment. It was a little bit too big, so I had to trim it down just a little bit more, and then re-ink it super fast. And then it wasn't popping quite enough. The black soot is probably drying out a little bit, so it wasn't as dark as I'd like it. It needed to come out just a little bit more, and I didn't want to back it with black cardstock because I was so short on time. So I just wound up using my black pit marker and just ran it right along the outside, and that helped. And I'm going to use my phone tape and pop that up too. I just went for it. I wasn't scared at all. And there it is. I go to my page. It's already gessoed because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I wound up using my pitch black Tim Holtz dabber to just do the outline so that I would have that black border. I gotta clean as I go. I can't handle it when it gets out of control. There it goes. Super easy. And really pretty. I hope you guys like it. I just love it. I think it just makes me happy. I hope you guys like it as much as I do. I'm very, very pleased with it. Exactly the kind of happy, colorful page I was wanting to create this evening. I was really happy that it worked out. I'm just using my ATG gun just to tape it down. I did sign it and date it afterwards. I missed that in the video. But there it is. The last touch that I wanted to do to bring the fish out a little bit more is I'm using my Clear Star Jelly Roll pen, and I'm just kind of scribbling around on both fish, and it makes them sparkle so nicely. So hopefully you can't really see it in the video, and I sped this up really fast. Can't really see it in the video, but I think you can tell how sparkly it is by the still pictures. So quick close-up. There it is. Ta-da! Hope you guys like it. So don't forget to check out the description bar with all the links, and don't forget to like, comment, and share for me. And thank you so much for watching, guys. A lot more to come.